Hello YouTube, this is Kevin from Double D Construction and we're back. It's been quite a while since I've done any new videos. A lot of it has been my business has really taken off, which has been fantastic. But it hasn't really left me a lot of time with the videos. And I just wanted to start getting these guys done so we could start going out and playing with them, having fun, getting video of that, and also showing some of the experience I've had and all that. And anything I can do to help get people into this hobby, I'm all for trying to do. But we've just been busy with the business. I got a massive contract, which is awesome. But, I've had to concentrate on that pretty heavily. Well, now I had a little time. I wanted to make sure I shot a video and show some of my new experience. We got most of the lights up and operational. We got the drive units repaired. I don't know if you followed in the earlier videos. These guys, we were having problems with them sealing. I'll explain that here in a second. And then, of course, we had a control issue straight from the factory. And, of course, we received our new controller. So I'll be showing that here in just a second. And then also, after I've discussed these things that I wanted to follow up on, I figured I would show you how I set up the sound unit, because in a lot of videos you don't see how people do them. You just see that they do them, but you don't see how they set it up inside the dozer. I've also heard that you can't fit the 7600 or 9000 batteries in there. True on the 9000. I put a 7600 milliamp hour battery in it every time, and I will show you that too. So give me a second, I'll get that other controller, I can show it, and from there let's have at it, and I'm going to show you some really nifty stuff. I'll be right back. Alright, so straight from RC 4-wheel drive, we got everything we needed from them for the new radio and everything. I haven't installed it, as you can see. I even have a new receiver that came with it. But we will get to that here in a little bit. For now, I just wanted to go over some of the stuff I've learned. I also wanted to discuss in the videos, you will probably hear me a lot say we or us or any of that. I'm mainly talking about my group of friends. I happen to be the one that owns all the equipment so far, but all of us are very interested in this. We're planning on building a quarry at my friend's house out in the valley here in Alaska, and of course I want to build a construction site on my property here in Anchorage. So when you hear me say we, that's what I'm talking about. I am not the only one that has come up with awesome ideas on these with our group. And actually, one of my friends, AJ, helped me figure out how to correct the sealing problem. So let's move into that. When I first got this, I knew that I wanted to get a lot more accurate with what I was trying to do. I really liked the idea of turning it into a D10, because that's what it's modeled after. And minus getting the blade, which I haven't been able to get yet because he hasn't had them in stock. I've gotten most of the stuff set up for that. Through a lot of research, I realized what I thoroughly wanted the heavy-duty tracks, because we have a rocky soil up here, and we are planning on working these pretty hard. As you see, we've finally got some dirt on it. We've finally gotten it running, and running well, and it's not a bunch of oily dirt that's just slopped all over. It's actually just dirt, which is fantastic. It means these are working like they're supposed to. Plus, I can take my finger and I can stick it back in here, and voila, no oil. So that's pretty awesome. But what I did was I decided I wanted it to look just like a D10. It was already basically there. Cat's the only one that does the high side drives and everything. So that's what I went for. Did the paint job, obviously, the decaling, and I realized, and I've heard so many things about why you wanted these steel tracks from RC Construction Projects, and I cannot say enough about how fantastically well they're made. They're actually really super awesome too. I think they look great. I like having the hole in them to eject rocks and stuff like that. I think that all in all, they're just a fantastically made product. And I don't regret for a second ordering these or putting it all over the website or all over the web. Anyone that has one of these, get these tracks. You really should. I also opted for some of the the disconnecting pins. Let's see, like I have one down here. It basically, instead of having a C-clip on it to hold it in place, it has a little screw that you can unscrew, and then it slides out and you can disconnect the tracks. It's basically a quick disconnect. That's what it's there for. I put 2 of them on there because I like things to be easy, and if I can't get to one very easily, maybe the second one will make my life a little simpler. But either way, he makes a lot of really cool things like that. He also does some of the bolts, so he did that. He makes these guys right here. These look really nice. They're they're very easy to install, and I really, really like them. I think they're absolutely fantastic. I also found where I can get the fire hydrants that I see in everybody's videos or pictures, or fire extinguishers, and you get them from PMD. So I got a couple of these, one for the loader and one for the dozer. And of course, like I said, we did the paint scheme. The lighting and sound I got from Hobby Concepts. I'm using a USM3, and I'll show that here in a little bit. But let's discuss the drives. They weren't the most inexpensive thing. Actually, they weren't even close to inexpensive, but they are brushless and absolutely beautifully made. Like there's no doubt in my mind that these are way better made than the factory ones, which have 3 little tiny screws that hold the plate on to hold the bearing in and to keep this stuff from moving. They strip out very easily. I believe a couple of people have already talked about that. This one is not the case. It's got 2 solid bolts here that hold in the part that the bearing rotates around. I'll just call it the axle, even though that's really not what it is. Or basically the housing that goes around the axle, the pumpkin, however you want to call it. It has a really solid plate right here to hold that bearing in, and then it has 2 solid bolts to hold that on, and it is more than enough to do that. But it's very, very well made. I love these things. I think they're phenomenal. But if you notice on this, there's a little bit. This one not so bad as my first set. Okay, we started having problems. We got it all together, and it ran really beautifully. It ran really smooth, and believe me, they run very smooth. They're very well made. I'm very happy with this product. We did have a problem. We had a little drama. There are quite a few seals in these. Okay, you've got your front seal where the front plate right here. It has a seal around it that just slides in here. I haven't had any issues with that. In the back of the drive, okay, there are 2 seals right here and here. Okay, they're both the same size. They're both 1.5 by 35, I believe. So 1.5 millimeters wide, 35 millimeters, I think is the diameter. So, and I think that they're 38 millimeters on the outside. Sorry, inside diameter is 35, the outside diameter is 38. We had a problem with them being not quite perfect, right? So there's a little play in them. So the problem we had is I would fill them up with oil, and the oil would last maybe an hour, and it would just be puking out these back seals because the seals were too big, or however you look at it, the seals were too thin to seal against it. They were there. If it was grease, they'd have worked beautifully, but it's oil, so you have to have a nice seal. And they just were not cutting it. So we were getting oil just all over the place, which was really sad because, man, they ran great until the oil runs out. So we finally figured, okay, if they're 1.5 by 38 outside diameter or 35 inside diameter, well, they ride on the inside of this, which means it's the outer diameter that's affected. So I went and got 2 by 38. Or 2 by 34. I think they're 2 by 34 is what they call them, but it's 34 inside, 38 outside, but they're 2 millimeters wide instead of 1.5. Well, the sad thing is the housing that the bearing rides on is very sharp on the outside, and even after we sanded that sharpness down just a little bit so the seals could pop on nicely because they're really tight, it sliced some of the seal. So it definitely wasn't going to work. When we finally did get one on there, it was a little cut, and then it was super tight. It would not turn smoothly or nicely. So initially, before I figured all that out, I did end up trying some American SAE size seals, and I'm not remembering what they are right now, but we will put them in the description, or I will put them in the description. Because if you have these and you're having a leaking problem, this will solve that, as far as I can tell. It's definitely solved my problem. But they're unlike the metric. They're that little tiny bit bigger than the old ones, a little tiny bit smaller than the other ones, and they end up popping on and sealing and doing really well. Well, we only replaced the back one because if you replace them both, once you get it on there, it is really tight, but more than that, the oil cannot get to that second seal, and it dries up and it gets really hard to turn, which will end up just tearing the seal up. Well, that's no good. So my buddy AJ, as genius as he is, decided, he's like, hey, why don't you just leave the old seal on the inside, okay, since you bought 100 of them anyways, and just put that SAE seal on the outside, or the far back. I was like, well, why would you want to do that? He's like, well, if you Vaseline them up, that'll help keep more of the oil out or from hitting that back seal. But really, what you want is just a tiny bit to get past that first seal so it can get to that back seal and keep it lubricated, but it still won't get past. And 100% true. Again, ran it for an hour and a half, something like that, 2 hours, no leaks. And we had plenty of leaks before. It kept leaking within minutes. Even if I basically filled it up and just let it sit for 2 days, it would leak out of it. So the seal wasn't doing a very good job, and now works beautifully. Like I said, if you can get your hands on these, I highly recommend it. They're very well made. And I will make this disclaimer real quick that Thomas, or just put this out there, that Thomas did everything he could to help me. Okay, I let him know the issue. He was on top. I was like, hey, I'll send you a bunch of new seals, and he did. That's when we figured out that the seals were just a little too small. Now, this is my other drive set because we will hopefully be making another dozer by winter. I'm super excited to put these on and test them. But, you know, maybe the seals aren't sealing. It is what it is. I don't know if other guys have had the same problems that I have. If they have, that's what I would do. It's not a major issue. It's a very easy fix, and for something that was, $700 and some odd for a set, I'd definitely recommend paying the 50 cents I paid for an O-ring on each side. I mean, it is what it is. Everything isn't perfect, but God, these things are beautiful and very well made. Sometimes the engineers don't get everything right either. So he went and he had a bunch of people, or as far as I understand, he had them help him make these, and they did such a good job. But even on our equipment, for my business, I have a machine that has a heater in it that the engineering company that has made hundreds of these machines couldn't even figure out that if you put a heater that can't handle 300 degrees in a machine that runs at 300 degrees, it's going to fail. They were putting wiring in there that caught fire. And I mean, I'm running it at 350. If you don't have high heat wiring in it, it's going to catch fire. And guess what happened? One of my machines caught fire. Why? Because engineers are interesting sometimes. But they thought they could get away with it, and it didn't work. And you just never know. But Thomas makes it all very quality parts. I just want to make sure I put that out there. Because again, I'm not unhappy. This is just a little workaround that fixed my problem. Being in Alaska, we have to do stuff like that a lot. Anyways, that was a very long-winded answer to now. We've got the new seals on here. They work fantastic. Again, I will put what size these seals are in the description once I find the receipt that tells me, or I'll just go get them measured and I'll order another 100 because they're fantastic. I expect them to fail every once in a while, so if I have them for life, I'll be happy. But I will put that size in there. And other than that, I mean, everything has been going very well. We did have some problems getting this to work because of the controller, which of course, we're going to fix that once I reset up the other than that, I'm going to stop. Wait a second, there was something else I was going to show you guys. Well, I don't remember. I'm going to stop shooting now, take a quick break, and then we'll come back and we're going to do a little tour of how I set up the sound unit, because let's face it, a lot of people talk about it. I haven't really seen any videos where people show the insides of the dozer and how they manage to make stuff fit. Now, of course, yeah, so we'll see you here in a bit. Thanks, guys. Alright, everyone, so here is the dozer as she sits. I haven't taken it apart yet to replace the receiver and such, but we'll be doing that here in a little bit. I don't know if I'll have that videoed or not. My goal is to, when I build the second one, have the entire thing videoed the entire way. I just didn't have the ability to do that this time. But let's dive into this thing. Let's show you how we set up the sound system. So, like I said, you can fit a 7600 milliamp hour battery in here. If you notice, it is on its side, but it actually fits all the way in, to the point that, well, not when the plug sticks out, but to tuck the plug in there all the way down. So it actually fits all the way in there. Now it does get a little warm in there, but I don't know that that would change with a 5000 milliamp hour battery. So anyways, so let's pull the battery out. It just slides right in just like that, in and out. So if you notice, it looks kind of like a rat's nest. I promise it is not. Well, kind of. I got all the wiring. With the wiring having set up the way it is, it's not the most organized, but it works very effectively. You know, you got your 2 drive ESCs, okay, for the 2 drives. The ESC for the pump, just like factory, is actually sitting in the back, up under this yellow plate that everything's sitting on top of. The USM 3 is right here. Okay, I set it on its side, with the side that has the SD card up, obviously, because it can't sit on its side with that there if it was down. And then here is the receiver. The nice thing is I haven't strapped it down, so I can switch it out pretty easily. Of course, if I remember correctly, I got the idea for the 2 ESCs on the side like that. I think it's That's My RC did it. He did manage to mount these switches up really nicely. I just can't get them to stay, so I'm just leaving them loose, because for me it's not too big of a deal. I don't mind. As long as everything functions, I'm not too worried about making it absolutely super gorgeous. One thing I did change is, instead of using the USM 3's fuse, I decided to go with one of these. I think it's called an ATP. I'd have to check on that, or ATC. They're a lot easier to get than the 4 amp glass ones. I also like them a lot better. Just looks like that, little car one. So I wired that in to the USM instead of running the little circular glass one, because they're a little bit more difficult. Now down under this plate, I don't know if I can see it right now. Yeah. There's actually in the bottom, I believe it's up front, is the regulator. Yep, I see the silver piece right there. That's part of the regulator that I haven't replaced, because I was going to replace it with one with a gauge. I just haven't got to it because, well, you can't really see it very well anyways. So I just haven't got to it. And then right under this plate is where the speaker sits, and it just rests right in there. I velcroed it so it stays in place, but it works quite well. Sound system runs really nice. I'll hook it up and I'll start it up so you guys can hear it real quick. And yeah, so I wanted to make sure I showed that. I also added, I put a 12 block setup for the wiring instead of the 10 that was in there, so that way I could add the extra circuit. I believe it's in some of my other videos. If not, let me know, and I can go a little bit more into that. I still have to wire up the lights up here, plus the beacons I'm going to put in the back. So I'm still going to be doing some extra wiring, but it's not all that heavy. line stuff to do, so we'll go over that when I go to do that. If I hopefully I'll have time to show that. But anyways, that's what we've done so far. I'm going to set up the camera real quick and get her started so you guys can see what it sounds like, how it works, and all of that. Thank you as always. We'll be right back in just a second. Alright guys, we got everything powered up and running. So, this is just it. And then on top of that, let's get our lights in. There's our fronts. I don't know if you can see our rears. Oh, that's fronts. There's rears. There's your fronts. And then of course we power it down. And the top right switch will eventually be the beacons, but we haven't got there yet. But that's just it. That's exactly how she works. Very simple, very easy, all on one stick drive. And then of course the blade is all on the right stick. So yeah, absolutely fun and exciting. The sound unit really wasn't that difficult once you figure out how it works. They have all the sounds and everything already in there, so it all works out quite well and quite easily. Anyways, thanks for tuning in, guys. Hopefully we'll get the last bit of it done, and then we can start working on the dump truck. I finally have the boxes. I had a little bit of a snafu with the drilling of the holes to mount it, so we'll have to fix that. And then hopefully I can get all the ESCs mounted up, wired up, and the whole truck running and working properly, and then we'll show that too. And hopefully we'll be getting to working on stuff this summer. So anyways, thanks for tuning in. This is Kevin with Double D Construction. Like or subscribe below if that's what you want to do. I greatly appreciate it. And if you have any questions or comments, please comment below, and I'll get to those as soon as I see them. Thanks guys, have a great day.